Shadow stopped at the back wall on US Route 93 in Missoula, Montana. Ears up, body locked. Cole touched the wood. The dog yanked him back. No wind, no sound. That wall felt wrong. What was hidden behind it? What do you think Shadow sensed? At 8:36 a.m., Cole Bennett killed the engine and just sat there, both hands still on the steering wheel of his 2008 Ford F-150. The truck ticked as it cooled, a hollow, metallic clicking. It echoed too loud in the quiet. He didn't move right away. Ahead of him, past a patch of dry grass and broken fence posts, stood the house. It leaned. Not the kind of lean you second guess, not a trick of the eye. The whole structure tilted toward the line of pine trees behind it, like it had been slowly pulled there over years. Maybe 6 degrees, maybe more, enough that your brain kept trying to correct it. Cole squinted, instinctively checking vertical lines, doorframe, corner boards, roof edge, all off. "Yeah," he muttered under his breath. "That's not right." In the passenger seat, Shadow didn't move. The German Shepherd had been still since they turned off US Route 93 10 minutes ago. No pacing, no whining, just watching. Now his ears were forward, locked. Cole opened the truck door. It creaked. The hinges complained like they always did. Cold air slid in. Late October in Missoula didn't ask permission. It just took. Cole stepped out, boots crunching on gravel that hadn't been touched in a while. The smell hit him first. Damp wood, old leaves, something faintly sour underneath, like insulation that had seen too many winters. He stretched once, slow, lower back tight from sleeping in the truck again. Then he walked toward the house. 3 steps in, he heard it. Not a sound exactly, more like the absence of one. The wind had been moving through the trees behind him, soft and steady. But as he got closer to the structure, it dropped off. Just stopped. He paused, turned his head slightly. Listening. Nothing. No branches rubbing. No distant traffic from the highway. No birds. Just the faint ringing in his ears that never quite left after a rock. Cole exhaled through his nose. Slow. "Get a grip," he said quietly. Behind him, the truck door stayed open. Shadow still hadn't jumped out. That was the first real problem. Cole glanced back. Shadow. No response. The dog stood on the seat now, front paws braced on the doorframe. But he didn't step down. Didn't even shift his weight forward. Just stared past Cole. Not at the front door. Past it. Toward the back of the house. Cole followed the line of his gaze. There wasn't much to see from here. Just the side wall, gray paint peeled down to raw wood, and beyond it the darker line where the trees closed in. "Come on," Cole called. "Let's go." Shadow didn't move. Cole watched him for a second longer. Something in his chest tightened, small but noticeable. This dog had gone through patrol sweeps in Helmand Province without hesitation, cleared compounds, taken commands under gunfire, and now he wouldn't step onto a quiet Montana yard. Cole turned back toward the house. The front porch sagged slightly, boards warped and darkened with age. A single step led up, cracked down the middle. The front door hung crooked in its frame, paint blistered, the number 17 barely visible under dirt. He checked the windows, 2 broken, 1 boarded from the inside. Inside. That detail stuck for half a second. Then he let it go. He stepped onto the porch. The wood gave a little under his weight, but held. He reached for the doorknob. Cold metal. He didn't turn it yet. Instead, he looked along the wall to his right. The siding there bowed inward slightly, subtle but wrong if you knew what to look for. Structural shift, maybe foundation issues. maybe worse. Cole had seen buildings collapse in worse conditions. He'd also seen some stand longer than they should have. He pushed the door open. It groaned, long and low. Inside, the air was colder, stale. It carried a layered smell: dust, old wood, something faintly chemical, like dried paint or oil. He stepped in. The floor creaked under his boots. A narrow hallway stretched ahead, dim light filtering through dirty glass. To the left, a doorway with no door. To the right, a wall. He took 2 steps forward. Stopped. The silence followed him inside. Not quiet. Muted. Like something had been turned down. Cole turned his head slowly, scanning corners, ceiling lines, entry points. Old habits. Automatic. He checked angles, shadows, blind spots. Clear, but it didn't feel clear. He shifted his weight. The floor dipped slightly. Behind him, claws scraped wood. Cole turned fast. Shadow stood in the doorway now, finally inside, but only barely. His back paws still on the porch. Body stretched forward, neck extended. He wasn't looking at Cole. He was looking past him. Toward the back wall, ears high, body stiff. No sound. Cole followed his gaze again. The hallway ended in a solid wall. Plain. Painted once, long ago. Now cracked, uneven. Nothing special about it at first glance. Except, Cole narrowed his eyes. The proportions were off. The exterior had looked deeper, wider toward the rear. He took a step closer, then another. Shadow let out a low breath behind him. Not a growl, not yet. Just air. Cole stopped about 3 feet from the wall, reached out. His fingers hovered for a second before touching the surface. The plaster felt colder than it should have. Dense. He pressed lightly, solid. But there was something else. A faint vibration. So slight, he almost thought he imagined it. Then, Shadow moved. Fast. He lunged forward, teeth catching the sleeve of Cole's jacket, pulling him back hard. Cole stumbled a half step, instinct kicking in, body turning to regain balance. What the? He looked down. Shadow had planted himself between Cole and the wall now. Not aggressive, protective. Head low, eyes locked. Still no barking. Cole's heart rate ticked up. Not panic, not fear, recognition. He'd seen that posture before. IED dogs before a sweep. K9s before a bad doorway. The kind of moment where something wasn't visible yet. But it was there. Cole slowly straightened, pulling his sleeve free without resistance. Shadow didn't fight him, just held position. The house creaked. A long, slow shift somewhere in the frame. Or maybe not the frame. Cole looked back at the wall. It didn't move. Nothing moved, but the silence pressed in tighter. He took 1 step back, then another. "All right," he said quietly. "We'll take it slow." Shadow didn't relax. Cole turned toward the door, stepping out onto the porch again. The wind hit him immediately, brushing past his face, rustling the trees behind the house. Sound returned. Normal again. He glanced back over his shoulder. From outside, the house looked the same. Leaning, quiet, empty. Nothing about it explained the way Shadow had reacted. Nothing obvious. Cole stood there for a long second, eyes tracing the back edge of the structure, the line where it met the forest. Something about that angle. Something about that wall. He exhaled slowly. "Yeah," he murmured. "There's something off." Behind him, Shadow stepped fully out onto the porch at last, but he didn't turn away. He kept watching the house. Specifically, That wall. And he didn't blink. Cole watched Shadow for another 5 seconds, maybe 6. Then he turned away first. That was how it usually went. By 11:18 a.m., they were back on the road, the Ford rolling slow over gravel before easing onto the cracked edge of US Route 93. Traffic passed in bursts, 2 pickups, a logging truck, then nothing for almost a full minute. The sky had gone that pale Montana gray, thin sunlight leaking through like it didn't want to commit. Cole drove one-handed. The other rested near the wheel, fingers tapping once every few seconds. Not random. A pattern. Shadow sat upright now, front paws planted on the seat, watching the side mirror. Every car that passed, he tracked it. Not curious. Counting. Cole noticed. Didn't say anything. At 11:43 a.m., he pulled into the far end of the parking lot at Community Medical Center. Same spot as last night. 3rd row from the back, near a burned-out light pole that hadn't worked in weeks. Safer that way. Less light meant fewer eyes. He killed the engine. The dashboard clock blinked once before settling. 11:44. Cole reached into the center console and pulled out a folded envelope. The paper was soft from being handled too many times. He slid a thumb under the flap and checked inside. Cash. A few tens, mostly 5s. He counted without really looking, $127.43. Still. He nodded once, like confirming a report. Then he tucked it back. Shadow shifted beside him. Not restless. Just adjusting position, leaning closer, shoulder pressing lightly against Cole's arm. Grounding. Cole exhaled through his nose. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I know." He stepped out of the truck and stretched again, slower this time. The hospital doors opened and closed in the distance, automatic sensors clicking. People moved in and out. Nurses, patients, someone in scrubs holding a coffee. Normal life. Cole watched it like it belonged to someone else. He walked to the tailgate and dropped it with a dull thud. Inside the bed, under a faded tarp, were the pieces of what passed for his life right now. A duffel bag, a toolbox, a plastic bin with a cracked lid. He pulled the duffel out, set it on the ground, unzipped it halfway. Inside, 2 shirts, 1 clean, 1 not, a rolled pair of socks, a small flashlight. And tucked into the corner, wrapped in an old army t-shirt, a photo he didn't take out anymore. He paused over it anyway, just for a second, then zipped the bag shut. Behind him, something metal clanged. Sharp, close. Cole dropped. Instinct took over before thought could catch up. His body pivoted, one knee hitting asphalt, hand reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. His breath locked halfway in his chest, eyes scanning, fast, left, right. Entry points, movement, nothing. Just a nurse 2 rows over, fumbling with a rolling cart. One of the wheels had caught on a crack. She adjusted it, unaware. The sound faded. Cole stayed low for another second. 2, then 3. His breathing came back uneven. He forced it down. Slow inhale. Hold. Release. Shadow was already there, pressed tight against his side, head angled up toward his face. No barking, no panic, just contact. Cole reached out and rested his hand on the dog's neck, fingers buried in thick fur, warm, solid. "I'm good," he muttered. "I'm good." He stood up. The nurse glanced over now, a quick look, then back to her cart. No questions, no scene. Cole turned away first. Always easier that way. By 12:22 p.m., he was sitting inside the Catalyst Cafe, a chipped ceramic mug in front of him, steam curling up in thin lines. The place smelled like bacon grease and fresh coffee, layered over something older. Wood floors that had seen decades of boots. He picked the seat near the window. Back to the wall. Clear line of sight to the door. Shadow lay under the table, head on his paws, but his eyes stayed open, tracking every movement that crossed the entrance. A bell above the door chimed. Someone came in. Shadow's ears twitched once, then settled. Cole wrapped both hands around the mug. Let the heat sink in. His knuckles were still a little scraped from earlier, skin rough against ceramic. Across the room, Martha Keegan moved behind the counter, wiping it down with a cloth that had probably been in service longer than most of the customers. Gray hair pulled back, movements steady. She glanced at Cole once, then again. Not unfriendly, just measuring. At 12:31 p.m. she walked over, set a small plate down in front of him. 2 slices of toast, butter already melting into the surface. "I didn't order this," Cole said. "I know," she replied. "Kitchen made extra." There was no kitchen mistake. He didn't argue. "Thanks." She nodded once and then leaned her hands on the back of the chair across from him. Didn't sit, just stayed there. "You're the one who took that place off Route 93, she said. Not a question. Cole took a bite of toast. Chewed. Swallowed. "Yeah." Martha's eyes shifted slightly. Not to him, to Shadow. "Dog doesn't like it," she said. Cole glanced down. Shadow hadn't moved. "Dog's seen worse," Cole replied. Martha didn't smile. She straightened, but didn't leave. "Last man who stayed there," she said. Voice lower now. Winter of '03. Didn't make it to spring. Cole didn't react. Not outward. "Disappeared?" he asked. Martha wiped the table next to his with slow, deliberate strokes. "Depends who you ask." "That's helpful." She stopped wiping. Looked at him directly now. "You planning on fixing it up?" Cole took another sip of coffee. It had gone slightly bitter as it cooled. "Need an address," he said. "That's about it." "For work?" "Something like that." Martha nodded once. Then she leaned a little closer. "Some places," she said quietly, "don't stay empty for no reason." A pause. Short. Then she stepped back, picked up the cloth, and moved on to the next table like the conversation had ended 5 minutes ago. Cole sat there a second longer, then another. He didn't look at Shadow, but he knew. The dog hadn't relaxed once, not since they walked in. Outside, a pickup rolled past the window, slow enough that Cole caught the plate. Montana tags, 7KX-214. He watched it disappear down the street. Then he finished his coffee. At 1:06 p.m., he was back in the truck. Engine running. Hands on the wheel again. He didn't turn toward the highway right away. Instead, he looked at the folded deed sitting on the passenger seat. Cheap paper, county seal stamped crooked in blue ink, his name printed slightly off-center. Cole Bennett. Owner. He picked it up, turned it once, then set it back down. Shadow shifted beside it, nose hovering just above the edge of the paper. Not interested in the deed, interested in what it meant. Cole looked forward, toward the road that led back to the house. His jaw tightened just slightly. "Yeah," he said under his breath. Then he put the truck in gear and drove back. The turnoff came up at 1:22 p.m. Cole slowed early, not because he had to, because he always did now. He checked the rearview mirror. Once, twice, a blue sedan passed him, didn't slow. No one else behind. He turned onto the gravel. The tires crunched louder this time. The sound carried farther. Maybe the air had shifted. Maybe he was just listening harder. Shadow leaned forward slightly, nose lifted toward the windshield. Same direction as before. The house came into view through the thin line of trees. Still leaning. Still wrong. Cole didn't pull all the way up this time. He stopped the truck about 20 yards short, engine idling low. The dashboard clock read 1:24 p.m. He let it run, just in case. He stepped out, closing the door quieter than before. The metal latch clicked, but softer, controlled. Shadow jumped down right after him. No hesitation this time, but he didn't move ahead. He stayed close, tight at Cole's left side. Cole noticed that, didn't comment. They walked toward the house together, boots and paws moving in sync across the uneven ground. The grass brushed against Cole's jeans, dry and brittle. A few stalks snapped underfoot. The wind was back, for now. It moved through the pines behind the house, low and steady, carrying the faint smell of sap and cold earth. A branch creaked somewhere high above. Normal. Cole kept walking. At 10 yards out, the sound dropped again, like someone had turned a dial. The trees still moved. He could see them, but the noise faded, muted, like it was happening behind a wall. He stopped. Shadow stopped with him, both of them facing the house. Cole tilted his head slightly, listening. Nothing. Not even the faint hum from the highway anymore. He let out a slow breath. "Okay," he said under his breath. "Not just me." Shadow's ears twitched once. Forward. Locked. Cole moved again, slower now, angling slightly to the right instead of heading straight for the front porch. He wanted a better look at the side. The ground dipped a little as he walked, subtle slope toward the back. The foundation line showed itself clearer from this angle. Cinder blocks uneven, one corner sunk deeper than the rest. That could explain part of the lean. Part. But not all. He crouched near the base of the wall, brushing dirt away with his hand. The soil was compact, darker closer to the structure, like it had been disturbed at some point and then left to settle. He pressed his palm against it. Cold. Damp. Recently? Hard to tell. Shadow moved past him, slow steps, nose low, tracking along the wall. He didn't sniff randomly. He followed a line. Direct. Purposeful. Cole watched him go. The dog reached a point about halfway down the side of the house and stopped. Same spot. Same angle. The back wall. He didn't bark. He didn't paw yet. He just stood there, staring. Cole stood up and walked over. "Show me," he said quietly. Shadow didn't look at him. Cole stepped closer to the wall. The paint here had peeled almost completely, exposing gray wood underneath. Some boards were newer than others. Different grain. Different cut. Replaced. He ran his fingers along the seam where two boards met. Not flush, a slight lip. He pressed. Solid. But there was something off about the spacing. The nails didn't line up with the rest of the structure. Whoever had worked on this section hadn't followed the original pattern. Cole leaned in closer. He could smell it now. Faint. Oil. Old machine oil, soaked into wood over time. Not recent, but not ancient either. Shadow shifted his weight. Then, slowly, he lifted one paw and touched the ground right at the base of the wall. Once. Then again. Not digging. Marking. Cole crouched again, this time right where the paw had landed. He brushed away more dirt, exposing a thin line where the foundation met the soil. There. A hairline gap. Too clean. Too straight. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small flashlight from earlier. Flicked it on. The beam cut across the ground, catching the edge of that gap. It went deeper than it should have. He angled the light, trying to see inside. Dark, but not packed. Hollow. Cole sat back on his heels. "That's not just settling," he murmured. Behind him, a sound. Gravel shifting. Cole froze. His head turned slightly, eyes already moving before the rest of his body followed. He didn't stand, didn't rush. He listened first. The sound came again, a slow crunch, one step, then another. From the direction of the road. Cole rose smoothly, turning his body just enough to put the house at his back and keep the open ground in front of him. Shadow moved with him, positioning just ahead and to the side. Protective angle, clear line. A truck sat at the edge of the driveway. It hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. Dark green. Older model. Ford, maybe early 2000s. Engine off. Cole's eyes flicked to the license plate. Montana.4H9-662. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Mid-50s. Solid build. Clean jacket. Boots that had seen use but not hard use. The kind that stayed on pavement more than dirt. He closed the door without slamming it. Watched Cole the whole time. Didn't wave. Didn't smile. Just walked forward a few steps and stopped. "You're Bennett," the man said. Cole didn't answer right away. He shifted his stance slightly, adjusting balance, keeping distance. "Who's asking?" he replied. The man's gaze dropped briefly to Shadow. Measured, then back to Cole. "Name's Logan Pierce," he said. "Heard you picked up this place." Word travels fast, Cole thought. Out here it had to. "Looks like I did," Cole said. Logan nodded once, slow. "Yeah, that's something." A pause. Wind moved through the trees again. For a second. Then it faded. Logan glanced toward the back of the house. Just for a moment. Then back. "You planning on staying?" he asked. Cole didn't answer. Instead, he watched. Logan's hands, his posture, the way his eyes kept wanting to drift behind Cole, toward that wall. Not the front door, not the roof, the back. Cole stepped slightly to the side, blocking the line of sight. Subtle, but enough. Logan noticed. A small shift in his expression. Almost nothing. "I might be interested in taking it off your hands," Logan said. "Save you the trouble." "Trouble?" Cole asked. Logan shrugged lightly. "County's not gonna like the condition. You'll get a notice, maybe 2 weeks if you're lucky." "Structure's not sound." He said it like he already knew. Cole filed that away. "Appreciate the concern," Cole said. "I'll manage." Logan studied him for a second longer. Then he smiled. Not warm, just polite. "I can offer you 18.5, he said. "Cash. No inspections. No paperwork delays." Cole didn't move. Didn't blink. 18,500, Logan added. "For something you paid $100 for. That's not a bad return." Silence stretched between them. Shadow shifted his weight. One step forward. Not aggressive, but not relaxed either. Logan noticed that too. "Dog's got a good read on things," he said. Cole glanced down at Shadow. Then back up. "Yeah," he said. "He usually does." Logan's smile tightened just slightly. "Think about it," he said. "I won't be around forever." He turned, walking back toward his truck. Didn't rush. Didn't look back. The door opened. Closed. Engine started. The truck reversed slowly, tires crunching, then pulled out onto the gravel road and disappeared toward the highway. The sound lingered for a second, Then it was gone. The silence came back, heavier this time. Cole stood there, eyes still on the empty road. Then he turned. Back to the house, back to the wall. Shadow was already looking at it again. Didn't blink. Cole exhaled slowly. Yeah, he said under his breath. They're not ignoring this place. A beat. Then quieter. They're watching it. Cole didn't move for a few seconds after saying it. The words hung there, thin in the cold air. Not dramatic, just settled. Shadow shifted first. One step closer to the wall, nose low again. Same spot. Cole exhaled slowly and crouched beside him. His knees cracked slightly as he went down, joints stiff from too many years carrying weight that wasn't always physical. All right, he murmured. Let's confirm it. He pulled the folding carpenter's ruler from the truck. Yellow, worn, edges chipped. The numbers were still clear, though. Inches didn't lie. Cole walked back to the front of the house and set the ruler against the doorframe. Checked vertical, adjusted, measured. Then he stepped it off. 1 length, 2, 3. Counting under his breath. By 2:06 p.m., he had mapped the entire front section. He paused at the end of the hallway inside, where the wall blocked off what should have been open space. He tapped the ruler against the floor once, then again. Listened. Solid. Too solid. He turned and walked back outside, retracing the same line along the exterior. Same count. Same pace. But the numbers didn't match. Not even close. Cole stopped halfway along the side and checked again, slower this time. He pressed the ruler against the siding, lining it up carefully with each seam. 4 feet. Missing. Or hidden. He lowered the ruler slowly. Yeah, he said under his breath. That's not construction error. Behind him, Shadow let out a low sound. Not a growl. Something deeper. A vibration more than a noise. Cole didn't turn right away. He already knew where the dog was looking. The back wall. He walked toward it again, slower this time. Not cautious in the way people think of fear. More like the way you approach a door in a building you haven't cleared yet. Angle first. Line of sight. Second. Exit path always in mind. Cole stopped about 6 feet from the wall. Shadow moved ahead of him, then stopped. Same place as before. Same line. Cole raised the flashlight again, even though it was still daylight. The beam cut across the uneven boards, catching dust, highlighting the differences in the wood grain. Newer boards, older nails, wrong pattern. He stepped closer, pressed his ear against the wall. Nothing. Just the faint hum inside his own head. That high-pitched tone that never fully left after too many blasts too close together. He tapped the wall lightly with his knuckles. Once. Twice. The sound came back dull. Dense. He shifted slightly to the left. Tapped again. Different. Still solid, but hollow behind it. Just a hint. Enough to register. Cole stilled. Listened. The world seemed to tighten around that spot. Then, tap. Cole froze. It wasn't loud. Barely there. But it didn't come from his side. It came from the other side. He didn't move. Didn't breathe. Shadow's entire body locked. Ears forward, tail stiff, eyes fixed on the exact point where Cole's hand hovered. Tap. 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 3 beats. Then silence. Cole's throat tightened just slightly. But his face didn't change. He stayed exactly where he was, hand still raised, eyes on the wall. "Wind," he said quietly. Shadow didn't react. Chimney draft. Pressure shift. He tapped again. 2 quick knocks. Waited. Nothing. A long second passed. Then tap. Tap. From inside. Not louder, but clearer. Shadow stepped back suddenly, weight shifting low, stance wide. Ready. Cole pushed off the wall and took 1 step back, putting space between himself and whatever was behind it. His breathing slowed on purpose, controlled. In through the nose, out through the mouth. "Okay," he muttered. "That's new." The wind picked up again behind them, moving through the trees like it hadn't just stopped entirely a minute ago. Normal sound returned, but it didn't feel normal anymore. Cole turned his head slightly, scanning the perimeter again. Tree line. Ground. Approach angles. Nothing moving. No one there. He looked back at the wall. It sat exactly the same. Quiet. Unchanged. Like nothing had happened. Cole lowered the flashlight and clipped it back to his belt. "We don't open that yet," he said. Shadow didn't take his eyes off it. "I know," Cole added. "I know." He walked back toward the truck, slower than before, but not rushing. Each step placed carefully, boots crunching on gravel again, sound back where it should be. By 2:31 p.m., he was at the tailgate. He reached inside and pulled out a small notepad, cheap spiral-bound, bent at the corners. He flipped it open and wrote 1 line. Back wall, hollow, response inside, pattern 3-2. He stared at it for a second, then closed the pad. Shadow jumped into the truck bed without being told, settled near the cab, but still facing the house. Watching. Cole leaned against the tailgate for a moment, eyes still on the structure. The lean seemed worse now, or maybe he was just seeing it differently. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the folded county notice that had come with the deed. He hadn't read it closely before. Now he did. Fine print. Inspection requirements, structural compliance, and 1 line circled in red ink. Failure to meet safety standards within 14 days may result in condemnation and removal. Cole folded it back up slowly. 14 days, he said. Shadow didn't move. Cole looked back at the wall 1 more time. Longer this time. Then he pushed himself off the truck. "All right," he said quietly. "We do this right." A beat. Then, we find out what's behind it. From the house, deep and faint, almost too soft to register. Tap. Cole didn't turn around right away. He stood at the tailgate, 1 hand resting on the cold metal, eyes fixed on the tree line instead of the house. His breathing stayed steady. Counted. In. 2. 3. Hold. Out. The sound didn't come again. That made it worse. He reached into the truck bed and pulled the tarp back further. Underneath, next to the toolbox, sat a rusted pry bar and a short-handled masonry hammer. He didn't grab them yet. Not impulsive. Not here. Shadow jumped down from the truck, landing quiet on all 4 paws. He didn't run back to the wall this time. He circled once, wide, scanning the perimeter like he'd been trained to do years ago in another country. "Clear the outside before you breach inside," Cole noticed. "Good," he muttered. By 3:08 p.m., the light had shifted. The sun dipped lower behind the trees, stretching shadows across the yard in long, uneven lines. The house looked different in that angle, more tilted, like it was leaning harder when no one was looking. Cole walked the perimeter once. Slow, methodical. He checked the windows again, counted them, noted the ones boarded from inside. That detail stayed. Who boards a house from the inside and leaves it that way? He crouched near the back corner, pressing his hand into the soil again. Same cold dampness, same subtle give beneath the surface. Then he stood and walked back toward the front. Halfway there, he stopped. The porch. Something new, a piece of paper had been nailed to the front door. Cole's eyes narrowed slightly. He hadn't heard anyone approach. No engine, no footsteps. Nothing. He didn't rush it. He adjusted his angle, approaching from the side instead of straight on, kept the door offset in his vision, checked the windows again, the reflection in the cracked glass. No movement. He stepped onto the porch. The wood creaked under his weight, louder than before. Or maybe he just heard it more clearly now. The paper flapped slightly in the wind. Official. Bright white against the gray wood. Cole reached out and pulled it free, the nail scraping as it came loose. He unfolded it slowly. County seal at the top. Missoula County Department of Building Safety. His eyes dropped to the center line. Notice of structural violation. Below it, in bold. Property deemed unsafe for occupancy pending inspection. Owner is granted 14 days to comply with code requirements. Cole read it once, then again. Then he flipped it over, checking the back like there might be more. There wasn't, just a stamp in red ink. 2:41 p.m. That's when it had been posted. 17 minutes ago. Cole looked at the road. Empty. He glanced down at the gravel. Fresh tire marks. Still sharp. Not yet softened by wind. Different tread than Logan's truck. Wider. County vehicle. He folded the paper once. Then again. Slid it into his jacket pocket. Behind him, Shadow had moved back toward the wall. Of course he had. Cole stepped off the porch and walked over. Still there? He asked quietly. Shadow didn't answer. He didn't need to. He stood in the same place, body angled toward the boards, ears forward, waiting. Cole looked at the wall, then at the hammer in his hand, then back at the wall. He checked his watch. 3:22 p.m. Light fading faster now. Temperature dropping with it. He did the math. 14 days. Inspection. Repairs. Permits. Utilities. Impossible. Unless... His eyes shifted to the exact spot Shadow had been marking. Unless whatever was back there changed the equation. Cole stepped closer. Close enough to see the grain in the wood. The small cracks in the paint. The slight misalignment of the boards. He raised the hammer. Stopped. Lowered it again. Not yet. He stepped back instead. Not in daylight, he said. Shadow didn't move. Cole turned and walked toward the truck, slower this time. The decision had already been made, just not acted on yet. By 4:05 p.m., the sun dipped below the tree line completely. Cold settled in fast. Cole sat on the tailgate, a small flashlight in one hand, the pry bar resting across his lap. He hadn't turned the truck back on. No headlights. No noise. Just waiting. Shadow lay at his feet, but he wasn't resting. His head stayed up, eyes locked on the house, watching. At 4:17 p.m., a sound carried across the yard, distant at first, then clearer. An engine. Cole's head turned immediately, eyes cutting toward the road. The sound grew louder, then slowed. Another vehicle. He slid off the tailgate without a word, moving into the shadow of the truck. Shadow rose with him, silent, slipping into position beside him. The headlights appeared first, cutting through the trees as the vehicle turned off Route 93 and onto the gravel path. Cole shifted slightly, keeping himself just out of direct light. The vehicle rolled forward, stopped, engine idling, different truck, white this time. County logo on the door. Driver's side opened. A woman stepped out. Mid-40s, maybe. Dark jacket, clipboard in one hand. She closed the door and stood there for a second, looking at the house. Not curious, not surprised, like she'd seen it before. Cole stepped out from the shadow. "Evening," he said. The woman turned, not startled, just aware. "You're Cole Bennett," she said. Again. Not a question. Cole nodded once. "Who's asking?" She held up the clipboard slightly. "Name's Marigold Hensley, County Inspector." She glanced toward the door. "Left you a notice?" she added. "I saw it." A pause. She looked past him, toward the wall, just like the others. Always the same spot. "You planning to fix it?" she asked. Cole didn't answer right away. "Working on it," he said instead. Marigold studied him for a second longer. Then she sighed, almost too quiet to hear. "I'm supposed to give you 14 days, she said. "That's the standard." Cole waited. "But," she continued, shifting the clipboard under her arm, "this place shouldn't even be standing." She looked back at the house, at the lean, at the line where the structure dipped toward the trees, then back at him. "Whatever you think you're going to find in there," she said, voice lower now, "make sure it's worth it." Cole's jaw tightened just slightly. "What makes you say that?" he asked. Marigold didn't answer right away. She just looked at him. "Then, because the last man who tried," she said quietly, "never came out with anything that helped him." A beat. Then she turned, walked back to her truck, and got in. The engine revved once. Then she was gone. The sound faded down the road. Silence returned. Cole stood there, eyes still on the empty path. Then he turned, back to the house, back to the wall. Shadow hadn't moved. Cole exhaled slowly. "Yeah," he said under his breath. "We're not waiting anymore." He reached for the pry bar, and this time, he didn't lower it. The pry bar hit the wood with a dull, splintering crack. Not loud, but final. Cole froze right after the first strike, listening, head tilted slightly, breath held halfway in his chest. Nothing outside. No engine. No footsteps. Just the wind pushing through the broken window frames on the other side of the house. He shifted his grip and drove the bar in again, harder this time. The board gave a little, nails creaking under pressure. Old wood. Dry rot somewhere beneath the surface. It should have been easier. It wasn't. Shadow moved in tight beside him, shoulder brushing Cole's knee. Not panicked, not aggressive, just close, watching the same point. Always that same point. Cole wedged the pry bar deeper and leaned his weight into it. The board finally split with a sharp crack, one end snapping loose and hanging at an angle. Cold air slipped through the gap. Different air. Cole felt it immediately. Not colder, just still. He stopped. Something about it